Puppy refuses to leave his sister's side due to her heartbreaking condition. A dark past and a murky future were all that a small litter of puppies in Louisiana knew. And for one member of the litter, being rescued wasn't the miracle it should have been. That's because she was different from her brothers and sisters in a way no one yet knew about. Though her siblings looked forward to their adoptions, her future wasn't as certain. All she had were her paws, a strong sense of smell, and an extra special ally. Rural Louisiana wasn't the greatest place for a litter of puppies to be, not because there was a lack of loving homes, but because an abandoned litter of 8 tiny white puppies and their exhausted mother could end up being stranded for days with barely any hope of being found in the more isolated areas. No one knew how long this particular canine family had been abandoned, just that the pups were around 3 months old when they were finally rescued by a Good Samaritan in 2020. That stranger happily took in the mother, but the puppies were a different story. Their journey was just getting started. The 8 siblings and 31 other puppies journeyed 1,900 miles to Helen Woodward Animal Shelter in Santa Fe, California. After such a long trip, which must have been scary for the young pups, unaccustomed as they were to any form of travel, the puppies were finally able to stretch their legs at the shelter, 2 of them in particular. "You wouldn't know it right away when you see them playing. They are typical pups," said a staff member at Helen Woodward Animal Center. It's true that 2 of the little white pups seemed normal from a distance. One of them, however, stood out. She had experienced a much different journey to California than the others. As nervous as the other pups had been on the long trip, imagine how much scarier it would have been if you couldn't see or hear anything that was going on. The staff members examined the little puppy and realized that this was her reality. She was deaf and partially blind. The trauma the poor puppy had experienced in her young life, being abandoned, rescued, then sent hundreds of miles away from anything familiar, had all happened while she was enveloped in darkness and silence. The staff expected her to be timid, maybe even unable to socialize with other dogs at all. So imagine their surprise when, suddenly, the dog's ears perked up. In a matter of seconds, the once timid pup leapt up and started jumping around with excitement. What exactly had turned this dog's frown upside down? Well, it's something that anyone with siblings would understand. The pup's brother had bounded to her side, nudging her in the right directions while playing with her. The staff watched in awe as Star and Denver, the names of the sister and brother, respectively, became pretty much inseparable. Of course, the pups aren't joined at the hip, and Denver can't be by Star's side at all times. You can imagine how alarming it must be for Star when she finds herself alone in a room, with Denver nowhere to be found. It's so important for young puppies, especially those with special needs, to explore their surroundings. Thankfully, Denver, ever the loyal brother, is never out of reach for long. Even if they're only separated for a few minutes, he always makes sure to nudge Star when he returns so she knows he's there, and that she's not alone. In this way, Denver has become Star's eyes and ears. He plays fairly with her, never using his sight or hearing to his advantage while they're wrestling. Denver has become Star's very own guide dog, helping her navigate unfamiliar territory and socialize with other dogs. Of course, there are some things Star must do on her own. Since she can still smell and touch things, Star has become adept at finding food and has learned how to familiarize herself with new places and people in her own special ways. Jackie Keller of Helen Woodward Animal Center explained how Star gets used to a new location. When she moves to a new location, she moves very slowly, putting one paw out cautiously in front of the other, and she maps out the area around her, Jackie explained. Even with this learned skill, there are times when Star finds herself alone in tough situations, but whenever this happens, she knows exactly what to do. Star can also smell, and if she is lost, she will move around the room until she runs into him, Jackie said. Though most siblings, human and otherwise, often bicker their way through childhood, the same can't be said for Star and Denver. When Star seems lost, Denver will run over to her and check in with her, Jackie explained. According to Jackie, their antics have only become wilder recently. They like to play with each other, play tumble, play with rope toys, and chew on stuffed toys, she said. Even though the staff at Helen Woodward Animal Center had fallen in love with the siblings, they knew that the pups really need a forever home. The problem was, many families weren't willing to take in one rambunctious dog, let alone 2. Add in a puppy with unique special needs, and a double adoption was a tall order. Separating Star and Denver, however, would be nearly impossible. You see, though Denver functions as Star's loyal guide, their relationship isn't a one-way street. Denver needs Star just as much as Star needs Denver. They are brother and sister, after all, and splitting them up would be downright cruel. In a perfect world, Star and Denver would find a forever home with children to play with. I think that them being siblings definitely is something that, for a family with kids, would teach them how to be closer siblings because they have to help each other out. One relies on the other, said a staff member at the center. Still, the fear of having to split them up was real among the staff of Helen Woodward Animal Center. That is, until they actually put the two dogs up for adoption. Instead of receiving 0 applications, the center received too many to count. People from all over were touched by Star and Denver's story. Determined to find the perfect home for the inseparable sibling, the staff vetted each applicant. Whoever adopted Star and Denver had to have lots of room for the dogs to play and explore, and they had to be able to provide for Star's special needs. That's when the animal heroes came across the application of Sherry and Art Armendariz. Sherry and Art were warm, caring, and patient dog lovers, just what Star and Denver needed after a rocky start to their lives. Best of all, they were more than happy to take in both pups. That said, enthusiasm alone can't pay for dog food or health care, or even the cost of adoption. Luckily, the Armendarizes had some help. An anonymous donor heard their story and generously covered the cost of adoption, and Blue Buffalo Pet Food, not to be outdone, provided Sherry, Art, Star, and Denver with a whole year's supply of dog chow. Denver and Star's new parents were even given special training from Rob Cutie of San Diego Pet Training so that they could learn how to make Star's life, and Denver's life, as her guide, a little easier. Even with all these changes, there's one thing about Star and Denver that will never change. Denver will always be vigilant of needs even while they are around humans, Jackie Keller said of the puppy siblings. Though Star's disabilities can make it difficult for her to warm up to people, Denver always has her back. Without him, it's possible that Star could have ended up like a less fortunate local pup named Roosevelt. Kelly Michael and Sarah Lotch had been looking to adopt a dog, but when they first laid eyes on Roosevelt, their hearts broke. The pit bull was in the care of Chicago Animal Control alongside other abandoned dogs, but there was something about his big, scared eyes that touched the dog lovers' hearts. And then they heard his story. It turned out that Roosevelt's unkempt appearance had an explanation. He had been abandoned at an animal control center by his previous owner, who'd attached a single note to Roosevelt's cage: "He has problems urinating." But Roosevelt's problems went far beyond his bathroom habits. It was one thing for a regular dog to be abandoned, but a pit bull. Since this breed is widely misunderstood as being violent, Kelly and Sarah knew that the odds of ever being adopted were stacked against Roosevelt. They immediately connected with the despondent-looking pup. "I watched him relax quietly in his cage while all the other dogs barked and jumped to get my attention. He looked so sad and tearful," Sarah wrote on Facebook. The dog lovers knew their connection with Roosevelt was no accident. They were meant to be Roosevelt's new owners. Thanks to the organization One Tail at a Time, the women were officially able to adopt Roosevelt. After a quick once-over from the vet, they took Roosevelt home. When they first let him out of his cage, Roosevelt did something they'd never seen him do before. He perked right up. They gave him a big hug, elated by the idea of giving him a happy life in their home. Roosevelt, whose name the ladies shortened to Roo, had never looked happier, which was when the newfound family ran into some unexpected trouble. The women noticed that Roo's urinary problems weren't going away, so the vet conducted a more thorough exam than had been done before. To Kelly and Sarah's devastation, the vet returned with horrible news: Roo had late-stage bone cancer. The prognosis was bleak. Roo probably had, at most, 3 months or so to live. Kelly and Sarah had to decide whether they should return Roo to the shelter, where he would live out his days on someone else's dime, or if they would take him in and pay for his expensive medical bills themselves. For the dog lovers, it was an easy decision to make. They scooped Roo up and brought him home without any hesitation. Roo may not have had a lot of time left, but that didn't mean he couldn't live out his remaining days in total happiness. With that, Kelly and Sarah came up with a plan. Roo, who didn't seem to be aware of his ailment, looked happier than he'd ever been. The ladies knew one thing: they'd pamper the pooch as much as possible over the next few months. To keep track of their plans for Roo, they came up with an unusual bucket list for the dog. Item by item, they were able to cross things off the list. Roo swam in a lake for the first time. gobbled down some ice cream, received relaxing therapeutic massages, and was even a frequent visitor at Taco Bell. Even with all this done, the list wasn't even halfway completed. And Kelly and Sarah didn't plan on the list ever being finished. You see, they planned on adding to the list as much as possible until Rue entered his final days. After every unforgettable moment with Rue, Kelly and Sarah shared an important message on social media. With the hashtag live like Rue, the ladies hoped to inspire others to live every day as if it were their last. And the message really took off. Complete strangers reached out to Kelly and Sarah directly with their own contributions to add to Rue's bucket list. Kind supporters of hashtag live like Rue sent the foster parents dog toys, treats, food, and even gift cards. Even with his scary diagnosis, Rue seemed just as happy and healthy as he did before, and his dedication to living freely inspired others to do the same, according to Sarah. People have sent me direct messages and fans have invited us to their lake house, Sarah said on Rue's now viral Facebook page dedicated to his final months. Some dog owners even re-examined their relationships with their furry friends. Now all the owners are doing things with their own dogs. Even with all this positivity, Kelly and Sarah never forgot the reality of the situation. Rue's days were numbered. Even if we have known him for such a short time, the mere thought of having to put him down at some point makes us cry, Sarah admitted. Until that day arrived, however, Rue had a packed schedule. Kelly and Sarah planned on having him visit schools, surprise a couple on their honeymoon, go to a hockey game, and celebrate Christmas. But in early September, Sarah took to Facebook with some sad news. We had lots of plans with Rue, she wrote, describing all of their happy times together. But it was time. He was in pain. After a few happy months together, it was clear that Rue's cancer had progressed to a point where Rue wasn't living a full life. Kelly and Sarah made the tough decision to say goodbye. It was one of the toughest days ever, and it hurts a lot, Sarah wrote on Facebook. We love that you felt like he was yours. That is what we wanted. Though their time with Rue was short, Kelly and Sarah found a great way to honor his life. They started the Live Like Rue Foundation, which centers on helping families and dogs affected by cancer. So let's mourn, but let's keep going and make him proud. Rue may have passed too soon, but his legacy left something truly special behind.